Hey, welcome back to Cost Accounting 203, Chapter 1. It's Alex again, and this is Example 1, 5. It is cost classification. So I know it was either between this one or the cost of materials manufactured, the statement of materials manufactured, but I thought, I'll do this first just because this really helped me. So basically, classify the following as direct materials, direct labor, factory overhead, or selling and administrative expense. And this really helps because sometimes these can be confusing. And so I thought, this is a good run through of what you're going to expect in cost accounting. So A, steel used in an overhead door plant. That's going to be a direct material because you're using the steel directly to make doors, so it goes right into the direct materials. It's something you're going to use a lot of that. Okay, B, cloth used in a shirt factory. It's going to be a direct material because you're directly using all that cloth to make a shirt, so it's easy to track. It's easy to know how much you've used. Okay, this one, fiberglass used by a sailboat builder. Direct material, because you're directly taking the fiberglass to make the boat. Yeah, you have to have that stuff. Okay, this one, cleaning solvent for the factory floor. Now you might think, direct materials. No, it's actually factory overhead. It's an indirect materials, because remember, this small stuff like this, it's not, you can't really track it, so you just throw it into overhead. It's indirect. It'll just add to the cost of everything. Okay, E, wages of a binder employed in a printing plant. So it's a guy he's working on. He's printing off. He's binding the paper to make a book. It's direct labor. He's directly working on the product, on the object. So we'll track his cost to find out how much it is. F, insurance on factory machines. This is going to be factory overhead because insurance, you can't really trace it to anything in particular. So we just throw it into overhead. Rent paid for factory buildings. It's going to be overhead again, factory overhead, because rent, you can't really tie that to the cost of anything. It's just rent. So it's factory overhead. It's going to raise the cost of everything. Okay, H, wages of the machining department supervisor. You might think, direct labor? No. Factory overhead, it's indirect labor. Yeah, he's on the floor watching, making sure everything's going fine, but he's not actually working on the product or the object. So he's indirect, so it's factory overhead. Okay, I, leather used in a shoe factory. It's direct materials because that leather is going. We know we can track it. We know it's being made into a shoe, so we know the cost of it. Okay, J, wages of a factory janitor. You might think, is that direct labor? No. Factory overhead. It's indirect labor because we need them. We have to have them there, but he's not actually working on any product or object. He's not adding to the cost of an object, so you just throw him into factory overhead, he's going to raise the cost of everything. Okay, electric power consumed in operating factory machines. You might think, what could this be? If you guessed factory overhead, you're right, because you can't actually trace how much power each machine uses, so you just throw it into factory overhead and dole it out later. And then L, depreciation on corporate offices. You might think factory overhead, but it's actually selling an admin expense because anytime the offices are costing money, you expense them because they have nothing to do with the making of the product or the object or the item. So you keep them separate. You have to separate them out so that way you know exactly how much those office workers are costing you. But then later on, you'll throw it all into work in process and have the finished goods. So they all get thrown in together in the end. Okay, M, but you want to separate them at the beginning. M, fuel used in heating a factory overhead, because you can't trace the fuel to any direct job or item. Okay, getting kind of tight here. Paint used in the manufacture of jet skis. Now this one, because paint's a pretty big thing, it's expensive. It's not small and insignificant. We're gonna trace it. It's direct materials. You could argue it could be indirect materials, factory overhead, but paint's usually expensive, especially on jet skis. It's usually going to be a main cost, and you'll be able to trace how many paint cans you use per jet ski. Sorry about it getting all crammed in here. I ran out of room at the end, so I was just putting them in here. Okay. O, wages of an iron worker in the construction business. This is going to be, if you guessed direct labor, you were right, because he's directly working on the iron. I mean, he's moving it. That's a hard job too. It pays well though. Okay, P, electricity used in the lighting sales offices. It's not overhead. It's a sales and admin expense because it's the sales office. So anything in the office is segregated and kept track of separately. That way we know where exactly who's costing what money, so that we know if we can find a way to lower the cost in that area or whatnot. So cost accounting is about finding what's costing you where and how you can use that to either lower the cost or find a way to have them not spend so much. So that's example 1-5, cost classification. I just really liked this one because it helped explain a lot about what's direct materials, what's direct labor, what's factory overhead, what's selling and administrative expense. So hope this helps, and I'll see you for the next vid. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment or whatnot. So thank you and have a great day.